What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Oh Hey There podcast. I am Rob Stats Guerrero. It's sort of an emergency podcast here because there is 49ers news to talk about. Luckily, I don't have to do it alone. As always on the Oh Hey There podcast, there's Leo Luna. What's up, Leo?
Hey, what's going on? It's kind of different this time, but I like it. I have a couple of great guys here with me, so I'm down. Let's talk some Niners.
And filling in for Javi Vega this week from the Sprint Right Option podcast. You know him, you love him. The man of many hats, Jason Aponte. What's up, Jason?
Thanks for having me, Rob and Leo. And I could only hope to do half of the job that Javi does on here, but just happy to be with you guys and excited to talk about 49ers doings, I guess. So that's the best way we could put it.
Yes, plenty of doings, plenty of goings on in this one. Before we get started, we want to remind everybody, please rate, review, and follow the Niners Nation podcast. If you already follow us, that is awesome. But if you haven't left a rating and a review, please take 30 seconds to do it. It makes a huge difference for us. And Spotify has reviews now, so you can give us a 5-star rating on Spotify if you listen there and leave us a review. That would mean the world to us. Okay, let's get right to the news here. Kyle Shanahan has press conference, Leo. You know, we're all waiting to hear injuries, updates, things like that. And Shanahan drops this bomb on us that Jimmy Garoppolo has a thumb injury. Now, in the conference call, Jimmy Garoppolo had a thumb injury, and he was specifically asked, Kyle Shanahan, if the thumb was fractured. Kyle said it's a sprain. Then a couple hours later, we get Adam Schefter, who tweets that Jimmy Garoppolo suffered a right thumb UCL tear along with a fracture, according to a source. Gee, Adam, I wonder who that source was. What's your take on the whole difference in the injury situation between what Kyle said and what's been reported by Schefter and others in the national media?
I'm just lost. Like, what the hell is going on here? We watched that game on Thursday, and the timeline kind of fits to where he was pretty bad after that second drive there. So basically the second quarter where that set B sack could be taking place. And with that, I saw no medical attention towards Jimmy, no camera spotlight of Jimmy fiddling with his thumb. Remember, that happened in the second quarter. So players go into the locker room. He came out, not even with a glove on his hand, nothing. And then post game, same thing, suit and tie. Like the guy looked, really good with nothing on his thumb as well. So this news that Shanahan broke about the sprain, it was shocking. I was like, what? I was really, really caught off guard by it. And then all of a sudden, Ian Rappaport says out there that it's a UCL tear. I had to Google what the hell is a UCL tear in a thumb. And then also with the fractured thumb as well. So I'm just real lost. Like, when did this injury happen? And I'm not going to say they're going to fake the injury. I wouldn't say that. But I just find it very strange that during the game, even post the game, there was nothing going on with his thumb. Did Jimmy Garoppolo keep it close to his vest, talk to his team about it first before, letting this news come out there? Did he try to toughen it out and not try to show a weakness to the Tennessee Titans, possibly not give Shanahan an advantage to pull him in that game? And did he just try to tough this thing out? Because I'm just lost. Like, the timeline of the situation's weird, but the timeline in his play during that game makes absolute sense.
I think you're muted, Rob.
Rookie mistake there. I Garoppolo'd that one. My bad. Jason, what was your first reaction when you heard the news?
So when I hear that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to make it for something that's called a bonus practice, right? I think it was Matt Barrows that put it out there. I thought it was something to be about personal day, Veterans Day, something like that, right? Because bonus practice, it was almost described as a glorified walkthrough. So I wouldn't have taken too much stock into it. And I really wasn't looking into it that far. So I was waiting to hear something like that. Then Schefter actually scoops everybody else and says it's a thumb injury. And then Kyle confirms it. And then the severity after Kyle confirms it comes out worse. I think that a lot of people are going to have their conspiracy theory, their narrative that they're going to run with. And a lot of that has to do with the way that Kyle Shanahan has presented information on injuries. And this is only going to gaslight those people. It's a sprain, wasn't a break. We'll know more on Wednesday. Now it's the UCL tear and a fracture. That doesn't sound like a sprain. And For me, I'm going to take Kyle Shanahan at his word. He's injured, and that's it. None of this, they're doing this to make a move or anything like that. But you can see how people would feel like that's how it is, because all of this stuff is strange when you look at the timeline of events. The game happens on Thursday, the way he plays towards the second half, and it's after the injury. The John Lynch tweet, and then all of this now to go right into this where now he's injured. It's like you could see how someone could jump to a conspiracy theory here. I'm choosing not to do that, but it is being gaslit by the fact that every time Kyle Shanahan talks about an injury, it'll go from, oh, he'll be okay 1 to 3 days, out for the year. And now this kind of lends to that as well, too. So you could see how people are a little bit confused and how this kind of feels a little strange, even though I'm choosing to listen to Kyle Shanahan and it's just an injury and it's not anything more than that.
I want to say I think Kyle's trying to downplay it because he's trying to do his favorite thing ever, which is get the other team to have to prepare for both quarterbacks, right? Like he wants to leave some doubt when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance and who's going to play. But like, let's be honest. When Jimmy Garoppolo is fully healthy, his throws, especially deep down the field, are questionable at best. If he's got this injury, and some people are saying it requires surgery, who knows? We don't know. But it's one thing to say, Leo, right, that a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo gives you a better chance to win than a healthy Trey Lance. Okay. It's another thing to say Jimmy Garoppolo with a chipped bone and a torn ligament in his thumb still gives you a better chance to win than Trey Lance. Like, there is no way Jimmy can play this week, right?
Absolutely not. You have a UCL tear and a fractured thumb. There's no way you're playing, especially on your throwing hand. Obviously, if you're left hand, then sure, yeah, I would not discount Jimmy of playing. But this being his throwing hand, I just don't see it happening. Adrenaline, it's a real thing. So there's a possibility to why he could have finished that game in Tennessee without a glove or, without some real big notch tape job on his thumb, because adrenaline's a real thing. And like, there's no reason to force your hand with the Jimmy Garoppolo when you have a completely healthy Trey Lance, who's supposedly been lighting up the defense for about 4 to 5 weeks now, playing scout team. And a lot of that scout team is similar systems to the 49ers. Now, it's not the exact same system, but the Atlanta Falcons run a similar system there. The Tennessee Titans run a similar system there. Even Minnesota Vikings run a similar system. So it's stuff, basic nuances that he's doing within the 49ers offense already. So that's where you get kind of hope for Trey Lance to go out there and translate what he's been doing against the 49ers first team defense, who's been playing pretty well on Sundays. They've been playing pretty well that no one really gives enough praise to, because it's not the sexy scoring touchdowns type of defense, creating turnovers type of defense. It's more so led by a Nick Bosa. So yeah, you got to roll your punches with Trey Lance. You got to take the chance, just like when you took the chance of trading away 3 first-round picks to select him in the first place. And hell, I still don't discount the Rams game as being saying a loss if Trey Lance is having to be in there, because the Rams, they have trouble stopping the 49ers from the behind the line of scrimmage when it comes to these extra avenues of the run game. So you could still do that with the Trey Lance. This is the same. The 49ers just beat them a year ago with Nick Mullins starting. And a lot of that is just Shanahan knows what to do on this defense. Obviously, it's a completely different Rams team. Has my favorite player in Odell Beckham that they didn't have last season. But I just like their chances to still be competitive and still win these games with the Trey Lance in there than saying a hurt Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw what that looked like against the Tennessee Titans, to where they went 7 drives in a row and only put together 3 points. The only time they scored a touchdown was the first drive of the game and their last drive of the game. Everything else between 3 points. So it's, what do you have to lose at that point if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a little more inaccurate over the middle, to where it can cause turnovers, since the defense is going to flood the middle of the field?
Michael Murphy on the Niners Nation Facebook page. Shanahan is playing 3D Parcheesi Shanahan mind games, Jason. It does seem a little annoying that Kyle either gives inaccurate injury information or likes to plead the fifth and say, oh, I don't know, nobody said anything to me, or I last I heard everything was good.
Yeah, and I think that's the source of a lot of fans' frustrations and why any sort of injury, right? Whether it's the quarterback or whether it's like a linebacker or a safety, most of the time when you listen to fans talk, they're like, well, if Shanahan says it's 1 to 3 days, that means he's out for the year. And, at this point, it's hard to argue with that. I'm a big Kyle Shanahan fan, but let's face it, either he is willingly lying to you about the injuries or he is playing whatever mind games he thinks he's playing. But it doesn't necessarily always mean that it's the quarterback, right? Like Aziz Al-Shaair could get, who's out for the year, unfortunately now, could get like nicked up a little bit, right? And he'll say he'll be good to go next week. But then you'll find out 2 days down the line, 3 days down the line that he's going to be out multiple weeks. So I think that's a lot of the source of the frustration in 49ers fans. It's like whenever you hear injury news initially from Kyle Shanahan, very many fans take that with a grain of salt. And that's probably me putting it mildly.
A huge grain of salt, like a boulder of salt. Let's be honest. Now, obviously, never want anybody to get hurt. I'm laying that out there. I know you both feel the same way. We are never ever rooting for injuries, but anybody that's heard me on behind any microphone that I have been behind, I have said that Trey Lance should have been starting from day one. I have advocated for them to make the switch to him after every single game because I think he should have been playing. It looks like he's going to play this week against Houston. How do you feel? Do you think the Niners have a better chance to win? And Jason, I'll start with you this time. Or do you think they have a better chance to win, worse chance to win? Or do you still feel the same way about the game?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of us wanted Trey Lance to start earlier in the season. And many people, especially after this Tennessee game, they wanted Trey Lance to come out now. But nobody ever wants to see it under these circumstances. Let me just be completely clear. Nobody ever wanted it under these circumstances. I would feel much better about this news if Kyle Shanahan came out in the presser and said, both guys are healthy, but I'm making the switch to Trey Lance. That's something that you can kind of celebrate in that way. With this, it just kind of feels off just because, unfortunately, yes, a player is injured. And you never want to see that, right? In terms of how I look at this game, I think that, those circumstances aside with the injury, this is a soft landing spot for Trey in his second start, meaning Houston is susceptible on the ground. The 49ers can do what they can and also put a game plan in motion for Trey Lance with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. And if Elijah Mitchell's back this week, this is a good place to start, right? And I think that right here, if you had a dream scenario for him to have his second start, it would be against the Houston Texans. Woo. Last week, I understand they beat the LA Chargers. I get it. That's something that nobody had on their 2021 bingo card. But at the same time, I feel like the 49ers are set up here. And I don't know if I look at this more favorable. I just know the 49ers are still in a spot where they can win the game, right? And one more thing I kind of want to preach. No matter how this game goes, your view of Trey Lance shouldn't change.
Right.
Meaning, if he has a great game, that doesn't mean that he's the future or that he's just automatically this Hall of Fame quarterback. In the same way that if he has a bad game, that he's a bust. Everything needs to be in context and everybody needs to slow down a little bit. Excitement, have it for sure. And if you're excited, I'm not trying to damper that. But in the same way that Mac Jones kind of started out very well and has had a few lackluster games, those games and those games now do not tell me what he's going to be in the future because he's still a rookie. Now, obviously, right now the 49ers need to win this game and they need to win 2 games. So he's thrown into it where, hey, if he doesn't play well, they may not win games. But there is a world where Trey Lance plays well in this Texans game and they lose, or Trey Lance plays poorly and they win. So again, when you're looking at Trey Lance going forward, it should be about development and it should be about where he's at the end of the season. And you should still be judging him as a guy who's in his second game only. I don't care about the opponent. It's still the NFL and it's not as easy as everybody thinks. So I don't know if I just put a damper on the excitement, but I just want to temper the expectations and also just have everybody realize you're still evaluating a rookie in his second game. He's still in his 8th quarter. So that's really what I want to say about that.
What do you think, Leo? You feel better about the Texans game? Worse?
First off, how I feel about the Jimmy Garoppolo news, I think it's unfortunate because with Jimmy Garoppolo gave this franchise, this fan base so much life in 2017 when he first came over here, kind of messed with their draft plans by winning those 5 games. But at that moment, it felt worth it because there was now hope within the building and within the fan base that we found our guy. And he started to put together this hot streak of games for the 49ers. And you felt the players really rally off of that. Brandon Ayuk mentioned it a couple times after the games. George Kittle's always at his back. Trent Williams mentioned it as well during interviews. So you really felt that chemistry. You really felt like these guys were riding behind Jimmy Garoppolo. And then it just happens on a Thursday night, day before Christmas Eve, where it seems like his tenure's over now. And I think it's very unfortunate when we're at that certain place and then just one game takes it all away right before the playoffs start. And seemingly, if this team even gets into the playoffs, which I do still expect them to do. But now looking at it towards, okay, put emotion aside, Trey Lance is in. Trey Lance is going to play this Houston Texans game. Do I feel better or worse? No, because it's the Houston Texans. Just to be blunt about it, yes, they just beat the Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert at quarterback. Well, Chargers are one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. And so are the Houston Texans. But Rex Burkhead looked like a Pro Bowler going against that Los Angeles Chargers defense. The 49ers rush defense is fantastic. I do not expect Rex Burkhead to have anywhere near of a type of game against the 49ers. And in fact, Trey Lance in at quarterback, like Jason said, it helps out the run game fantastic. And how are the Texans against the run? Well, they're the 5th worst rushing defense on the road. So I think it really, really points to the 49ers' favor in there, having a guy like Trey Lance rush out there. I don't think Shanahan is probably going – I don't see him ramping up Trey Lance to get 30 pass attempts just in case if he is the playoff quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo can't go. I think we're probably going to see a game script similar to Arizona because the lack of rush defense that the Houston Texans have.
I want to get to what we are going to see in Houston in a minute, but you mentioned the Jimmy Garoppolo in 2017. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always skeptical with a new quarterback because if you just look at it statistically, odds are they're not going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league because there are so few of those guys. So I try and protect my heart a little bit. I don't want to get hurt. So I try and really hold back before I kind of like start to believe in a quarterback. But then he played the Texans. I don't know if you guys have seen this. There was that show Turning Point, and it was all about the final drive that he had against the Titans. And he was on the sidelines and he asked Scangarello to come over, run through the 2-minute drill with me. Then he goes over to Trent Taylor. Remember, when Trent Taylor was actually a thing, he goes over to Trent Taylor. Hey, when you're on your slant, do this and I'll hit you over the middle. You're too quick for him. And then boom, they cut to it and Jimmy's hitting Trent Taylor over the middle. Then he goes and talks to Marquise Goodwin and he gives him a little tip. Then boom, they cut back to it and it's Goodwin. I saw that and I was like, oh man, like we may have a guy here. Like this could be the guy. He seems to be, thinking through the game situationally. He seems to be smart. He seems to be accurate. Like that's when I started to believe. And then now for that to come full circle with his last game potentially for the 49ers coming against that same franchise in a disappointing loss where he throws 2 interceptions, 1 in the end zone, misses Kyle Juszczyk so wide open. I don't even know if he could see a Titans defender on the field. It was just like a bookend for me where I can okay, I am closing the book on the Jimmy Garoppolo era now, Jason, and it's over. It is officially over now. And it just seems very, very final to me that we have seen the last of Jimmy Garoppolo in a 49ers uniform.
I think it's really funny that you bring up 2017 because I felt the same way. You're very skeptical when guys, there's not much film on there. And I thought Kyle Shanahan did a beautiful job of saying, hey, we're not going to throw the playbook on you. Let's run some of your Patriots concepts and let's just go play ball and see what we got. Because we're not playing for anything at this point. 49ers become the first team to start a season 1-10 and finish it 6-10. Right. And I think that game is the game that I also felt that way as well, too. But also, you have to remember what we had before. Brian Hoyer and all the other people. Like, realistically, 49er fans have been waiting for their guy since Steve Young. And I know Jeff Garcia was there, but, he was only there for a few years. And for all intents and purposes, I don't really feel the 49er fans felt they had their guy. He was successful. They won games with him, but they never felt like this is the guy that we have and we're going forward with him and he's going to be here 10, 12 years, right? Jeff Garcia was a great quarterback while he was here, but I never felt like he was the guy, in my opinion. I, even as a child, knew, okay, we're winning games with him. They're successfully moving forward and in the playoffs, but he never felt like a guy. You kind of got a little glimpse of that with Colin Kaepernick for a little while, and then that kind of went away. So 49er fans were sort of desperate to grasp onto somebody who they thought would be that. And then you get this guy who comes in, handsome, and then you have that game and just the way he looks, and he looks like your franchise quarterback. He looks like the guy that you can just say, here we go. We got our guy, and we stole him, right? The Patriots gave him away, and we're like, oh, thank you, Bill. Like, oh, wow. So all of those things need to be contextualized. In terms of the Jimmy Garoppolo era, it'll always be fond in my mind. And I will stand pat in that, right? I understand what's happening now, but I don't want to be prisoner of the moment of how things have happened. 2019 will forever be a season that I will always remember, no matter how it, obviously you'll never forget it because of how it ended, but he was a part of that. He was a part of resuscitating this franchise. And in 2017, when he was doing what he was doing in those 5 games, people had the thought process that many of us had, man, wait till this guy learns the offense. Wait till you put some weapons around this guy. Wait till he really starts to process everything. It's just funny how this league works, and funny how things happen. Because in 2017, you couldn't have foreseen the circumstances, and they did get one very successful season out of him. But it's always going to be something that no matter what, I have no ill will towards the guy. And he very much resuscitated this franchise for a few years, and I have to give him credit for that.
Leo, when you look back at the Garoppolo era, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts is I am 28 years old, and why can't I have nice things? Why? My dad has Joe Montana, Steve Young. Steve Young was my guy, my GOAT, but I'm way too young for that during his era. I was born in 1993, so obviously once I could actually understand football to a concept level, I was not there yet when I was 10 years old. Not everyone could be a Vish Kumar, and shout out Vish Kumar. So with that being said, it's just like I had to go through Tim Rattay. I had to go through Ken Dorsey, Sean Hill. I had some hope for Sean Hill. I thought he was the guy, with the 10-6 career record as a 49ers quarterback. Colin Kaepernick, I thought he was the guy, but no, he got taken away from me. Alex Smith, I thought it was for those 2 seasons, had him taken away from me. Jimmy Garoppolo, nope, he got taken away from me as well. It's just, I can't have nice things. It's kind of like walking through a porcelain house and then everything just gets broken. Just speaking on the quarterback position, frankly, even on the 49ers playoff history, since I was born in 93, and they've been kind of a not consistent since 2002. You make it for a couple of years, then you don't make it. And it was only the Jim Harbaugh era that had them make it 3 consecutive years. So with that being said, it's just, Jimmy Garoppolo era, it's to an end. I never believed the whole hype of him coming back in 2022. And to the extent of what this injury is, there's no way that he's able to come back. And if they do get into the playoffs and Trey Lance moves them on to the next round and beats Tom Brady on the road in Tampa Bay, that's just the matchup I'm going to go for right now. If Trey Lance does that, like, you're not going back to a Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not doing that. So this is the end. This is 3 games for Trey Lance. I'm going to say 3 games because I do believe this team makes the playoffs. This is 3 games for Trey Lance to learn, develop, get better, and go into year 2 with. Now, if he wins that 3rd game, which would be the playoff game, there's absolutely no way you say, oh, well, we're going to see Jimmy Garoppolo as a game time decision for this, what would it be, wild card game, or this divisional for this divisional game, for this NFC championship, for the Super. Okay, now I'm getting too crazy, but you just don't go back with Jimmy Garoppolo at that point.
Too crazy 30 seconds ago, man. I like how
beating Tom Brady on the road. We'll see, like, all these injuries with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have so many guys down.
I know. I love the enthusiasm, Leo, but don't call the man's name.
David is out.
Don't call the man's name. Like, just when you think you have Tom Brady is when you're playing right into his hands, man. That's like, I would try to put that off for as long as possible. I'm not calling for that right away. Please, Leo. I don't care.
I'm hoping that's not the playoff matchup. I hope it's not. He
could go out there with me as wide receiver. He could go out there with me as receiver, and I still wouldn't want that.
Leo just
what is he going to do? Hit a Hail Mary to Scotty Miller before halftime? Oh, wait. Packer fans, that did happen.
Leo slyly threw it in there. Did you catch that, Jason? He was like, hey, Trey Lance has 3 games here. Like, you just assume the 49ers are going to go into the playoffs. And for anybody that doesn't know, by the way, that is far from guaranteed. The Saints can screw that up. Now, they are playing right now as we record this on Monday Night Football and had a grand total of -2 yards of offense in the first quarter against the Dolphins. So hopefully that's not a thing. But if the 49ers, Eagles, and Saints all finish with the same record, the 49ers are out. So we can't just assume that they are going to be in the playoffs here. I like to think that they'll make it, but who knows? A lot of people arguing in the comments about Jimmy Garoppolo and what we could do in the playoffs if Trey Lance is there. Like, don't skip past that. Just go 1 week at a time. And just to close the book on the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, when I think of the Jimmy Garoppolo era, I think of just frustration, ultimately. There were some good days and some good highlights for sure, but too many games ended with interceptions or inconsistency or injuries with Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll never forget what it felt like in 2018 watching Jimmy Garoppolo writhe on the ground in Kansas City when he tore his ACL. I will never forget that feeling of just thinking like, this was supposed to be our guy. This is not how this was supposed to go. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they make the Super Bowl in 2019. But even in that Super Bowl, what were we talking about after the game? Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't convert a first down. Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't hit Emmanuel Sanders. So as for all the good things Jimmy did, and there were some good things, I'm just ready for something new. Even if they lose every game with Trey Lance the rest of this year, I just can't watch them lose the game the same way again. So that's what I am at least excited to see, is just a different movie. I'm tired of watching the same movie all the time, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's very fair. And unfortunately, a lot of what will be remembered is the negative stuff in terms of injuries, how that Super Bowl ended. And a lot of, if the 49ers find a way to win that Super Bowl in 2019, then we are talking about a completely different trajectory. But I think that playoff run is kind of what started the process to get where we are in terms of new quarterback. You know, the way that those playoff games were won, what happened in that Super Bowl, and then you start, flirting with Brady. Obviously, in 2020, things don't go the right way. And then in 2020 offseason, just the 49ers openly flirting with every single 2-armed, able-bodied quarterback under the sun before finally trading the farm to get to 3 and drafting the replacement. So it'll feel like this. And I know that Rob's a big comic guy, Leo not so much. It'll feel like an episode of 49ers What If. What if something else happens? What if he doesn't get injured in 2018? What if that pass gets hit to Emmanuel Sanders? Where are we now? You might be able to live with what happened in 2021. You might be able to live with what's happening right now in 2020. I mean, in 2020. Well, I mean, in 2020 and then in 2021. The Super Bowl is really where it changed. If he wins that Super Bowl, then he's probably still going to be here. It becomes lifelong 49er at that point, and he's extended this goodwill tour. So realistically, a lot of that has to do with, a lot of where we are has to do with how those playoff games were won, that Super Bowl, and then all the events after that. So it's just, it'll always be what if.
If he hits that touchdown pass to Emmanuel Sanders, probably gets a contract extension.
Right? He's a lifelong 49er.
They bring back DeForest Buckner.
Rob, you wouldn't have wanted that.
Contract extension, and DeForest Buckner is still a Niner because you lower Jimmy Garoppolo's cap number.
But they might not have won that game.
I'm not a comic guy, but this is what, like a multiverse?
Yes, exactly. It's 49ers multiverse where Emmanuel Sanders catches that pass, the 49ers stop them on defense the next time down, and the 49ers win the Super Bowl, and Jimmy Garoppolo gets thrown into the 49ers lore of amazing players at quarterback in Super Bowls.
And there's a spider pig in the locker room.
Noted. Yeah, good job, Leo. You nailed it with that one.
I don't know if the 49ers win that Super Bowl, by the way. There was a lot of time left. The Chiefs had plenty of timeouts. I'm just throwing that out there. But go ahead, Leo. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Now you're just big braining the what if at this point, Rob.
True. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say something about. Never mind. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something about them getting to the playoffs. But I'll get back to it. It was an off topic type of discussion.
All right, just quick check, by the way. Dolphins still up 10-0 on the Saints. 10.5 minutes left in the second quarter. And apparently Sean Payton is just letting Ian Book throw the ball like crazy, which is,
Smart.
just awesome for us as 49ers fans. You got it now, Leo?
I got it now. So earlier this year, the NFL took away a Sunday night football game from the 49ers. Do they put them now back in for week 18 into Sunday night football? It's a potential division clinching game for the Rams to see if they're either hosting or they have to travel for the first round of the playoffs, and a potential playoff seeding for the 49ers. Do the 49ers go from getting flexed out to flexed in?
Yep.
I
Because
think
the only other option would be Philadelphia and Dallas, and I understand that's a rivalry game, but it doesn't have Trey Lance.
Yeah.
It doesn't have Trey Lance trying to win in LA, and I don't see how. But knowing East Coast bias, hi East Coast, Rob, you know that. Knowing East Coast bias,
What up?
it won't be the 49ers. It will be Philadelphia and Dallas if Dallas is playing for something, and Philadelphia has a chance to make the playoffs.
Can I just say this too? Because I've seen this a lot on Twitter, and I completely disagree with it. People are saying, oh, well, boy, how'd you like to beat Trey Lance? Huh? You get thrown into your second start in a must-win game, and then you might have to face the Rams. I'm not trying to hear that noise, man. If you wanted a soft landing for Trey Lance, he could have started week 1 against the friggin' Detroit Lions, all right? So tough. I don't want to hear that. Conditions are not always perfect in the National Football League. Sometimes the guy ahead of you gets his lung punctured by the team, and you find out you're starting 10 minutes before the game, like Justin Herbert did for the Chargers. And oh, by the way, all he did was go out against the defending Super Bowl champs, throw for over 200 yards, 2+ touchdowns, and almost win the game. So forget that whole like, oh, this is a terrible spot for Trey Lance. No, man, you were drafted to be the 3rd overall pick. You were drafted to play in and win big games. Man up and let's go. Enough of this like, whoa, it's Trey Lance stuff. That just drives me nuts, Jason.
Yeah, and I think that 2 ways to look at it. One, you're absolutely right, because Trey Lance was drafted to make things happen when things aren't perfect. And obviously, right now, that's what that is. Like, Kyle Shanahan wants a guy who, when things break down, he can do things. 2, I think it goes back to my point about how you need to view Trey Lance's performance in these games. I understand 49er fans, the goal is to make the playoffs. And I'm with you. I obviously want to make the playoffs. Don't matter how it ends. You have to get into the dance. You cannot hate from the outside of the club. On the line, if you can't get into the Roxbury, then that's your business, right? You have to actually be in to the club to hate on it, right? So here's the thing. I don't want those. Yeah, I don't want the Trey Lance evaluation to get clouded by the must-win nature of it. Now, Rob's absolutely right. Things are not going to be perfect, but that's why you drafted Trey Lance, for things when they are not perfect. He can lift you. Now, unfortunately, he's going to be in his second start where it's like that. But hey, if he's everything that you think he is, he will show you something in this game, no matter what the result is. There is a world where Trey Lance plays very well in this game and the 49ers lose. What if he throws a pass to George Kittle and he fumbles? What if he throws a pass to Deebo Samuel and they fumble and they take those back? Is that Trey Lance's fault? No. So in the same way, evaluate this kid in the same way as his second start. But again, he was drafted to do things that are outside of what Shanahan is already throwing in front of him. And that's why he's here.
At the end of the day, Jimmy Garoppolo's injured. So for people that want to be crying all over the internet, suck it up, because would you rather not have the 49ers draft Trey Lance and then we're stuck in this game with the CJ Beathard or Nick Mullins?
Oh,
like, come on, grow up. Like, I would rather see Trey Lance, depending however the movie turns out. I don't care. Yes. I would rather see a Trey Lance than a CJ Beathard or a Nick Mullins. At the end of the day, Jimmy Garoppolo's injured. So this is the life we have to live in. This is the reality we have to go into. So grow up. It's Trey Lance. Let's see what happens.
Respect Nate Sudfeld.
Oh, God. I like this comment. Len, watching on the Niners Nation Facebook page, the locker room rides with Jimmy, and so do I. That's an interesting twist to all this, right? Because there was that component of Jimmy seemed to have the support of the veterans in the locker room. This, and again, I'm not rooting for injury. That's not what I'm saying. But just from an objective perspective, this is an interesting development for the 49ers because Kyle has now avoided that problem in the locker room, right? The veterans in the locker room are not going to criticize Kyle Shanahan for going with Trey Lance in this situation if Jimmy Garoppolo can't play, if he's injured. So now if Trey does get in there and plays well and Kyle wants to stick with him, sort of like we saw with Colin Kaepernick in 2012, he kind of avoids a lot of the problem in the locker room because of how this change took place. Whereas if I think he had benched Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe after the Colts game or even after Trey's first start with Arizona, if he hadn't been hurt, I think there might have been a little bit of an issue there, but that's kind of gone now, right, Leo?
Oh, it's absolutely out the window now. It's Jimmy or Kyle Shanahan did avoid that and thankfully got to avoid that situation. Obviously, not because of the injury. It's really tough to manage personalities, manage a locker room, manage the team, put in a script together for this game, and deal with all that. So Kyle Shanahan definitely avoided like what player is going to be upset. They're not benching Jimmy. They're not. He's just unavailable. So they have to go with Trey Lance. There's plenty of people that wanted to see Trey Lance in the middle of Tennessee game. And if Kyle Shanahan did that, then yeah, you could lose the locker room at that point. But he didn't. He stuck with Jimmy and got to a point where they tied the game and scored too soon, just like I guess the Packer game at home week 3. But yeah, he avoids that for sure. It's Trey Lance because he's the next man up, not because Jimmy's getting benched. So at that point, there's no locker room argument. No one's upset. No feelings are hurt. You just got to ride with the next guy at that point.
Lots of people seem to be mad at Trey Lance, mad that Jimmy Garoppolo is out. Like what? They're both on the same team. Like what are we talking about here? And I know you could say that about the 49ers, but we've seen Jimmy Garoppolo play and his play has been worthy of criticism. Like
a lot of people are mad because the era's over. He's not making another start.
What era? It's an error. It's not an era. Okay, let's just like call it like it is. All right, like
all right. Let's relax on the dad jokes a little. I'm just kidding. I love dad jokes. I'm all for it.
I don't get what Jimmy Garoppolo has done to.
It's an era.
Earn this
it's an
type
era.
Of loyalty. What? I mean, he had one good year.
QB wins. QB wins. Rob. QB wins. Look at it. It's an emotional thing. It's an emotional thing. You know, when Jimmy Garoppolo starts, there's a good chance they win. It's an emotional thing. It's for the fans that had to deal with the Brian Hoyers, the Blaine Gabbert season. So it's but you understand. You're a producer at the end of the day, so you understand the big picture of the things. You have to talk to criticize this team when it needs to be criticized, while other people may not want to do that.
Realistically, a lot of the quarterback wins. Well, look at Shanahan's record without Jimmy Garoppolo. It's CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins, guys. And you know what?
Brian Hoyer.
And you can't. And the one thing you can criticize Kyle Shanahan for in that case is for him choosing Brian Hoyer instead of going to scout Deshaun Watson, going to scout Patrick Mahomes. You are not about to sit here and tell me that using that metric of saying, look at how many wins Kyle Shanahan has with Jimmy Garoppolo as opposed to CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins is a worthy argument. Guess what? Jimmy Garoppolo is a starter in this league. He is a competent quarterback. Let's just put it a buck and keep it a buck. CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins are below replacement level quarterbacks. I don't know how much better I can put that and why that needs to be explained.
I don't know why people don't see it either. Like, yeah, if you start a trash bag of quarterback, you're probably not going to win. This isn't a complicated concept. The bar for who should be the 49ers starter isn't, are you better than Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard? Like, that is not the standard that a team has to play with. Oh, we got a little super chat here. Going fishing. I expect Trey to play about the same as Jimmy since Jimmy's making rookie mistakes in year 10, but Trey has more upside with broken plays. He's not wrong. A lot of my issue with keeping Jimmy Garoppolo is that you get none of the upside with all of the risk. Like I think, Leo, you talked about it, where he's not a game manager. He turns the ball over too much to be a game manager, but you don't get the big plays with Trey Lance. Just think about it this way, right? Remember when Lance was playing against the Seahawks and there was a broken coverage and Deebo Samuel was wide ass open? Trey Lance got the ball to Deebo Samuel in a position that let him run for a touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo had Kyle Juszczyk wide ass open on Thursday night and could not get the ball to him for a completion, let alone a touchdown. If that is the only difference between Trey and Jimmy, Trey's better than Jimmy. Like, how are people not seeing this?
And for a team that prides itself on running the ball, let me paint a picture as a defensive coordinator. You have a rookie quarterback who has wheels. The zone he's in a shotgun with Elijah Mitchell next to him, Deebo Samuel running across him. He puts the ball in his belly. You fear the pitch. By the time you figure out who has the ball as a linebacker, you're stuck. You're stuck in quicksand. And now for a team that would love to get back to basics with Trey Lance and run the ball more and not put him in spots where he has to drop back and pass, because let's face it, it is his second start. Obviously wouldn't be the smart thing to do. Why don't you see the vision in terms of where this team can at least win the game while protecting Trey Lance and doing what Kyle Shanahan wants to do, which is run the ball? So at the same time, for a guy who doesn't take a lot of shots downfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, you still find a way to have very turnover-worthy throws in the middle of the field, in between 5 to 10 yards. How? How is that? I mean, I know that's not what the efficiency says. That's a whole other story, right?
Give me a break.
I've got to. All right, so look, real quick. Here's my spiel on efficiency. Here's why it doesn't matter. The efficiency, the EPA estimated points added. When you break it down play by play, some of the most efficient plays that Jimmy Garoppolo is graded on are a 2-yard pass to a guy and yak after that. Some of his worst efficiently graded plays are the plays where he actually pushes the ball downfield and gains significant yards and catches the pass. Make that make sense to me. Make that make sense to me. Some of his easiest throws are the ones that are highly graded. Some of his better throws, I've seen this man push the ball down the field, right? He'll hit Deebo Samuel on a drift route. That's not efficiently highly graded. So there is no way that you can cite EPA without looking at how it's graded and using your eyes. Analytics should go hand in hand with film. One does not take precedent over the other. And I don't know if I just went on a rant, but I just wanted to make sure we put that out there, because there's a lot of talk about EPA and him being in this tier with Rodgers and Mahomes and no.
Sorry, David Lombardi. No.
Oh, wow, you said it. I didn't say it. But there is context to it, and you do have to understand how the grading is working. If you notice, the plays that are graded highly, they're nothing. They are a 2-yard pass that goes for 8 yards. But Jimmy Garoppolo pushed the ball 15 yards down the field. It'll be a catch, and that's not graded highly at EPA. Make that make sense to me. Make it make sense. Need your eyes.
Leo, did you have something you wanted to say?
In a brief summary, Jason's basically saying, you're not that guy, pal. You're
Watch
not that
the
guy.
tape, fam. Watch the tape, fam.
And he's saying that towards the EPA stat as a whole. EPA stat. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. But yeah, it's just everyone talks about how much Trey Lance can enhance the running game. Okay, his one start this year against the Arizona Cardinals. Who was not on the field for the 49ers? Oh, just their Pro Bowl tight end, George Kittle. Well, with no George Kittle, wouldn't that lessen your run game? So it's okay. Now they have a better chance of establishing the ground game even more with now a George Kittle that Trey Lance is going to have at his advantage that he didn't have last time. Oh, and that, as a blocker in the run game, take that away. George Kittle is a hell of a receiver as well. Trey Lance could give him something for 5 yards and Kittle turn it into 11 and 12. He had, all due respect, Ross Dwelley. Ross Dwelley is not George Kittle.
Very, very little respect.
I think that's fairly established. So he's going to get this new toy now. Trey Lance will. Come on. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
I love optimistic Leo.
Optimistic Leo.
Sometimes.
Leo. All right, well, let's get into it.
Sometimes I can be optimistic.
But let's get into it here before we wrap up. Trey Lance, like you guys have talked about, he ran it a lot in the Cardinals game. Against Houston, I want to see Kyle use him as a thrower. Don't run a ton of designed runs up the middle for Trey Lance. If it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, you want to throw in one, okay, that's fine. I get it. But you drafted this kid to be a quarterback. Let him throw it. Let him get the ball in the hands of Deebo and Ayuk and take some deep shots down the field to Kittle. I don't want to see as many design runs for Trey as we saw against Arizona. Is that, taking away a strength of Trey, Jason, or do you think that makes sense? Where do you want to see against the Texans?
No, because there should be fingerprints from what is implemented for Jimmy Garoppolo that obviously Trey Lance might not be able to execute, but there's the layup throws that are there for Jimmy. Make them for Lance. When you run play action in one direction and you have Debo Samuel running the other way and you're able to just throw it to him and let him, why can't that be there for him? Why can't you design those open shots down the field that he has the ability to throw and he might be more willing to throw? So when I say layups, and people say, well, there's no layups in the NFL. Yes, there are. There's 100% there's layups in terms of when you run that misdirection play action and you come right back to it and the whole defense is going one way and it's a wide open throw to a guy and all you have to do is throw it 2 yards and it's all yards after the catch. Well, why is it that you scheme that open for Jimmy Garoppolo and not your rookie quarterback to try to alleviate some of the stress for him? So that's what I want to see. I want you to see I want you to use the run game to open up much more of the pass game. I want you to give those same throws that you give the leak throw to Kyle Juszczyk, the one that and it's not just this year that it can't get hit. 2020 there, I can show you film of in the Rams game, the same thing happening. They run leak, Kyle Juszczyk's wide open, Jimmy just overthrows it, and guess what? Your coach basically smashed his clipboard in half. Like it's like all those throws are there. The throws that Trey can't make right now are the ones that Jimmy make over the field that, he made in the Atlanta game. Oh, no, the end of the Cincinnati game, right? Like those throws like down the Kittle. Like you have to give Jimmy credit on those. But that's not playing to Trey Lance's strengths. At the same time that you give Jimmy Garoppolo all of these easy throws, give them to Trey Lance to get him in a rhythm. And then that opens everything else up. And if you're able to run the ball, stop running QB power into the back of the offensive line. Start doing more zone read. Have him read the end that's coming down and hand the ball out to Elijah Mitchell. There's so many ways that you can get this kid involved while implementing a little bit of what Jimmy has, but staying away from what Jimmy does that's good, because we still have to say good things about Jimmy Garoppolo because he did play well in these last few games and he did things that Trey Lance, I believe, is not ready to do at this point in terms of those tight window throws over the middle.
Yeah. When I was over at All 49ers SI, Grant actually came up with the thing for it, Grant Cohn. This is the Jimmy Gimmies. So give Trey Lance some of those Jimmy Gimmies, where it could be tunnel screens. It could be some from whatever type of, concept you want to use that you've seen Jimmy go time in and time out. Do that with Trey Lance. I absolutely want to see less QB power with Trey Lance because let's talk about efficiency. What was that doing? Like 2 yards per play running QB power. Didn't have much in. I understand there was a lot of nuance with it as far as like pre-snap, like there was other things, but as far as execution, it didn't match the pre-snap look. So like let's scratch that. Let's take that away. Let's try some RPOs. Let's try something else with Trey Lance and still put the threat of him as a runner against the defense. Ultimately, if he passes 20 times and carries the ball 15 times, I don't care as long as the 49ers win. But yeah, as far as like a development standpoint goes, considering that I believe this is going to be a playoff team, you do want to see more of a development from the passing game and not say, hey, we got Trey Lance. Let's just go ahead and run it 45 times and do QB power 20 times. Like, I don't want to see that because now you're hurting his in-game development and you're also hurting his potential playoff type of atmosphere that he'll be facing because you can't do that in the playoffs and be successful.
And his body.
Like
one more thing.
So less QB power.
Right. One more thing. If I could get a little spicy real quick. Maybe can we see some of those plays that you drew up coming from Justin Fields' pro day?
Right. When you were basically ignoring Justin Fields.
When you basically just dismissed Justin Fields because Trey Lance was always the pick. I'm looking at you, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, because John Lynch was the one who said it on his podcast. Might be nice. You have to win this game. Why hold back? Like that Waterboy scene?
Because they don't hold anything back.
College playoff can't hold anything back.
Here's what I want to see. Trust the kid. Let him fail if that's the case. But I don't want to see what we saw on Thursday night. If the 49ers get the ball back in the second quarter with 1 minute and 20 seconds left and 2 timeouts, I don't want to see you just give up, Kyle Shanahan. I don't want to see you run the ball and just be happy to go to the locker room with a 10-point lead because you're so terrified of a bad thing that might happen. That is the biggest indictment of Jimmy Garoppolo of all of this, is the fact that Kyle Shanahan does not trust him. Well, now you get Trey Lance in there. Don't turtle up. Don't pucker up, Kyle, like you normally do. Let him go. Let him fail. Give him that freedom. You drafted this kid to be a stud, to be the guy that can lead your team down in the 2-minute drill and not throw a turnover and get points instead. You drafted him to put the ball in his hands and win you games. So let him do it. I don't want to see this turtling by Kyle Shanahan to just be so afraid all the time. None of that. Like, we got to be done with that, because if Kyle is going to do the same thing with Trey that he's doing with Jimmy, then he's coaching these games with one hand tied behind his back. And you don't give up 3 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick to coach with one hand tied behind your back. You're never going to win that way.
And so basically what you're saying is you got a Lamborghini and you're pulling up to a yellow light. Don't stop at the yellow light. Go past the yellow light, Kyle.
Blow through that son of a bee. Yes.
Well, the other thing is that Kyle said as much, and this really got me upset after the Thursday game. Well, why didn't you go for it at the end of the half? Well, I didn't want another turnover towards the other team.
Then what are we doing?
What are we doing? What are we talking about? So now you literally, and this is kind of where I have problems with Kyle, because sometimes he has word vomit and he says things that he can't really take back, and it tells you more. Like, he'll try to cover it up and say, well, no. Genie's out of the bottle. Pandora's out of the box. So you just admitted that you didn't go for it at the end of the first half because you didn't want Jimmy Garoppolo to turn the ball over again. You kind of just put it out there.
What did he do in the first play of the third quarter, by the way?
Pick.
He threw a pick. So he did it anyway. And look, I mean, so you can't hide your quarterback, Kyle. Those days have to be over. Stop hiding the quarterback. Now, maybe Kyle was a little more nervous than normal because he knew at that point that Jimmy Garoppolo's thumb and hand was messed up. That could be a part of it. But it would have been nice to have Kyle say that at the end of the damn game, because I didn't see Jimmy G on the post-game injury report. But anyway, hopefully we're not talking about that. Hopefully when we come back next week, we are talking about a 49ers victory. God help us. The Saints have made it a 1-score game now. It's 10-3 with 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. Hopefully,
barn burner.
Come on, Dolphins. Can you do something right, Dolphins? God. Hopefully the 49ers do not have to worry about the New Orleans Saints, and we can come back here on Tuesday next week and talk about the 9-7 San Francisco 49ers, who are looking good for a playoff spot going into the final week of the season against the Rams. Leo Luna, Jason Aponte, I thank you so much. If you want to hear more from Jason, he is at Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103, or you can hear him on the Sprint Right Option podcast. Leo Luna is on Twitter at Leo Luna 93. He likes to argue with people, so make sure you hit him up. If you insult him first and then ask him a question, I guarantee you he'll write you back, because that's how Leo rolls. He likes to fight on Twitter, don't you, Leo?
No, man.
No, man.
Don't get shy on me now, man. Come on.
Oh, my God. Leo's lost that aggressive bone right now because he's got the new baby and
That's
everything.
True.
I feel like he, with that second kid, because I couldn't tell you, I only have one, but that second kid is starting to put things in perspective for Leo. Like, hey man, life is good. I'm feeling good. There's things that are going on and that I'm gonna let it slide. Yeah. So like, I like new Leo.
I'm like, I can't argue with this guy. He's got a mom. He's got a dad. He's probably got a brother and sister. Like, what if he has kids? I can't argue with him.
Oh, man. By the way, one quick comment before we go. Jesse Rodriguez on the Niners Nation YouTube page. Tua Tagovailoa looks like a left-handed Jimmy Garoppolo. That is not a compliment.
Shout out to Jesse Rodriguez. He is head of the analytics department for the Sprint Right Option podcast. Real quick, if I could plug my own thing real quick, Rob. The 49ers currently are 8-0 in games that they outscore their opponents. That is the stuff that you need to. Yeah, that's the stuff that you need to hear, and he is part of that. So Jesse is the person who delivers those analytics to you, and you're not going to find that on any other podcast. If the 49ers want to win games, they should just straight up outscore their opponent.
That's it. That's the key to victory. We have cracked the code here. By the way, Jason, thank you for filling in for Javi Vega, who couldn't be with us this week. Javi, we miss you. Come back next week, hopefully. If you haven't submitted a review and a rating for the Niners Nation podcast, please do it, whether you listen on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen. Spotify just added reviews, so please, if you can do that, it makes a huge huge difference to everybody. Thank you so much for all the support in 2021. Niners Nation went over 1 million downloads in November, and we could not do that without your support. So we thank you again. Rate, review, subscribe. Enjoy your week, everybody. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, Javi and Leah will be reunited. It'll feel so good, and things will be good for the 49ers. Have a good night.